funnels cash in on belief, but flywheels are what actually create the belief in the first place. And for many of us, we don't have belief in ourselves. Our customers don't believe in our products or services yet. And maybe we're creating new categories. And so we're trying to create belief in something that does not even exist yet and we have to explain. Well, funnels cannot do that. You have to have a flywheel to create belief.
All right. Here we go. It's Fernando Labastida. I'm here with Chris Stanley, the mini book guy. As you can see, that's his logo right there. Chris Stanley has become a good friend of mine over the last half a year. We kind of met each other because we both have a love for category design. We kind of swim in the same shark-infested waters as the category pirates. You know, we're both category designers. Hi, James. Nice to see you here. You know, the thing about Chris is that he is a book writer and he's come up with a system. It's a very unique system. Nobody else is really doing anything like that, to write a series to build a business on the back of a series of mini books is what he calls it. And he's started off life as, hey, Cesar Aguirre is here. We both know him. How's it going, Cesar? He started off life as an insurance adjuster, and he built a $700,000 business teaching insurance adjusters how to become insurance adjusters through publishing mini books, right? So it's a fascinating story. I don't know if you wanted to say any words before I put your slides up on the stage here.
He just told the whole story, so I'm done. I'm done, guys. So like, he just told the whole story in a nutshell.
Just write a bunch of mini books, and you know, if you have any questions, call Chris. Okay, so here you are, Chris. Here's your.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, here's your slides.
Perfect. Thanks, Fernando. So honored to be here. As Fernando said, we've been talking a lot personally, one-on-one to each other for months, sharpening each other, challenging each other. And basically when we get stumped, we just call each other. So any brilliant ideas I have are actually Fernando's. So there you go. He can just lay credit to that. But super excited to be here with you guys. I'm going to be talking today, as he said, how to go from 7 days of writing to $700,000 a year in revenue. Now, some of you would be like, whoa, that'd be amazing. And some of you are sitting here going, this guy hasn't made billions of dollars a year. You know, like I'm kind of like that everyday guy who made it, right? Not the one-off. Like what I feel I've done, I believe is repeatable. And it's not some crazy number out there that is unachievable by other people. And so I hope that today you see that, oh, wow, this is something I could do and apply. And maybe, you know, maybe it's not $700,000 a year for you. Maybe it's $200,000 a year so you can quit your job. So whatever it is that you're trying to obtain in your business or in your goals, whether that's scale a company, a startup to 10 million and beyond or 100 million and beyond, don't tune out because of the number. It just sounded good. 7 days of writing to $700,000 a year in revenue. And it's actually legit. Like that's what my company has done in revenue for the past 3 years. So I guess I'm ready to get started. Are you guys ready? I want to know that you guys know how to actually use the chat here. I don't see the Q&A, so I don't know where that's hiding, Fernando. If there is a Q&A section, I get to see.
Yeah, there is a Q&A. There is a Q&A. It's in your page. The page for your talk. Okay.
The page for my talk.
Yeah, and you got to actually log in. You know, but I'm monitoring it. Okay. I know now that there is a Q&A, so I'm monitoring. So if anybody has any Q&A, I'll be there. I'm just going to go off stage for a minute just to let you talk, and then I'll join in a few minutes.
All right.
Go ahead, man. I'm going to let you loose on the world.
All right. Well, I hope you guys are ready. So I'm going to go over here to my slides, and I'm not going to be able to see the chat right yet. But I got a question for you guys. This is to test your typing skills. I want to make sure you guys know how to put it in the comments. This isn't for the Q&A. This is comments. So if your business was a weather phenomenon, would you want it to be a tornado or would you want it to be a hurricane? So go ahead and put it in the comments. Go ahead, type. Fernando says hurricane. What is everybody else thinking? Caesar, you want to be a hurricane or a tornado? Dana says a tornado. There's no wrong answer here, by the way. You might change it by the end, but there's no wrong answer. Okay, so we got hurricane and tornado. We at least got one vote for each. Awesome. Hurricanes are chaos, she says.
And
Yeah,
I
this is,
misspelled hurricane.
yeah, yeah, it's
Hurricane.
okay. I'm not judging spelling here. I might be an author, but trust me, my spelling is atrocious. Okay, awesome. That's where we're going to start. I want you to hold that in your head, your vote, whether you want to be a hurricane or a tornado in your business. And, for most people, the weather metaphor matters because the first thing we think of is tornadoes. They spin up fast. Like, hey, I want to make some money. And hurricanes, they build really slow over days and days and days. And so they're very different in the way that they work, but both are very devastating in their own right. And so we'll be talking about that today. So who am I? My name is Chris Stanley, and I'm the founder of IA Path. And Fernando gave that introduction about how I was an insurance adjuster, and I started helping people learn how to become independent auto damage insurance adjusters and appraisers. We're going to talk about niche, okay? Like, this is super the niche of the nichest, okay? And I started a company called IA Path in 2016. And then recently, in the last few years, I started a company called Mini Book Publishing that talks more about how to write mini books. But I've had 21 books hit the Amazon bestseller list. They're devotionals, they're insurance books, and they're books for authors. And I live on a sailboat in a schoolie bus with my wife and 3 boys. Right now, I'm on my school bus. That's what you're seeing behind me. I'm at my parents' and sister's house, actually visiting them. And so I'm using my bus as my studio, quote unquote, right now. But I built a $700,000 a year online business remotely from my sailboat with a strategy I'm going to be outlining for you guys today. But as you can guess, I didn't start where it sounds all nice and pretty. Trust me, my story is anything but pretty roses. When I first got started, my story was more about haters and doubters. Does anybody have any haters and doubters right now in the business? Maybe you're so new, you're like, I wish I had haters and doubters, but no one even knows I exist, right? When I first got started, I started this company helping new independent insurance adjusters and appraisers learn how to do their job, learn how to get work in the industry. And people were literally yelling at me on LinkedIn, saying things like, who are you to give advice? Have you even ever done this job before? What's your adjuster license number? And just on and on and on. Some really tough stuff. And that was how my story started. And I could have given up there because as I scroll down here, I did not enjoy this part of starting a business where people are yelling at you. I didn't start a business so people would yell at me and be like, hey, who are you? What are you here doing? But that's how my story started, right? It's how most of us start, is we start in a place that's not fun, but then I had a turning point. And my turning point my first year was I wrote a little book. I now call them mini books, but it was like 10,000 words. I wrote a book for that industry and everything kind of shifted and changed. The book was called The Independent Adjuster's Playbook. And if you're looking at my little camera, you'll see the book right here. This is the 4th edition. It was nothing fancy. It wasn't long. But what it did do was it started to create belief in what I was talking about. And here's the numbers, so you can kind of see how it climbed over the last 9 years. 2016 didn't do anything because I was brand new, just starting. 2017, I made about $20,000. And then I wrote the book, right? And it starts to click up. 2018 got a little better, and then it starts exponentially going up when I realized and doubled down on the idea that I could build my entire business around that book, and that would be the central theme of everything I ever did and talked about. And so this is kind of the flywheel in action that was created around that book. So I got a question here, though. Now, this Fernando was worried this talk wouldn't be interesting enough. He didn't really say that, but was worried there wouldn't be enough engagement. He wants us to give things away at these talks. Okay, so if you haven't been attending live or you're thinking about not attending other people's talks live, you should, because they're going to be giving stuff away. So I'm giving some stuff away today. But it only is to those who put the answer in the chat live. In the chat, not the Q&A, the chat here where you're viewing this. So the first to answer correctly is going to win 1 year free access to my Revenue Writer Substack, which is basically a $400 value. I charge $35 a month for that. So is everybody ready? Like, anybody? Anybody? Okay, here we go. So whoever puts it first in the chat, Fernando, you're not allowed to answer or steal this prize.
Okay, I'm monitoring the chat though. I'm monitoring both chats.
Okay, so which of the 4 life currencies do I write is most valuable in my book, The Misleading Money Mantra? Is it time? Is it energy, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual energy? Is it relationships, or is it money? You don't have to have read my book. You just have to have an educated guess. What do you think I would value most and call the most valuable in a book that I wrote? Okay, Emily says she's ready. She's got a head start on her, but she's already typing. Emily says time. Okay, anybody else got a vote? It's not time, by the way. So other people got another shot, Emily.
There's some votes in the other chat as well.
Okay, what are they saying?
I'm seeing somebody says 3. Sibeli said 3. Deanna said time. Christina said 1. Steven said time. Delane said money. Sandra said.
So correct answer is number 3, relationships. So whoever was first to say number 3, Fernando, let me know who that is. Let's get them my email.
That was email me.
Yes. So relationships for me, and maybe you, relationships are the most valuable life currency, which is just this framework I came up with of how to view life in different aspects rather than just working only for money. What are the other currencies I'm working for time, for energy, relationships, and money? And for me, relationships are the most valuable currency. And it's one that if you actually manage correctly, can actually give you all the other ones, right? You can have a lot more time and get more things done if you have a good relationship with the team. You don't even have to have energy and be able to tell somebody to do something and they can go do it for you. And they can also make you money. I am here because of a relationship with Fernando, potentially increasing my money in the long term, more relationships being built. So relationships, the life currency I value the most. All right. Moving on. That was just a side quest. Now you're going to get your access to the Substack there. So looking back at my company when I started, though, and maybe this is where you're at, is I faced 3 problems in that business, and I faced them again here in this new business with mini book publishing. And I think every business faces these 3 problems. Is 1, it's called the credibility crisis. Number 2 is the tornado trap. And number 3 is category confusion. And typically you face them in this order. And we're going to go into each one and then break down how you can solve all of them. So problem number 1 is a credibility crisis. I don't know about you, but like I told you, I got started and everybody was yelling at me. Who are you? You don't know what you're talking about. I don't think you're that smart. In fact, you're ugly, like whatever, right? The internet is a brutal place. And a lot of times we want to be remembered when someone comes to make a purchase, when someone goes to hire a coach, if you're a consultant, or if you have a SaaS product online, you want people to remember your product, remember you as a person, or remember even your category. So when it comes time to make a purchase and spend money, you can make money. Well, the problem is nobody remembers you for the most part when you get started because you're in this credibility crisis and they don't even know you exist. And if they do know you exist, they don't know that you can actually help them. You're in this credibility crisis. You have no credibility built up. And we need to build up that belief in us, in our products, and in our companies, and in our categories. And that belief takes time. And, no one trusts you. That is a credibility crisis statement. If you feel that, like, no one's trusting me, no one's willing to spend $3,000 with me, even though I can help them make $10,000. Well, why wouldn't they spend 3 to make 10? Because they don't believe you. No one trusts you. And so that's the credibility crisis. Maybe right now you're in a credibility crisis because you have no audience, you have no reputation, you have no proof. Maybe you got it for yourself, like me. I was an insurance adjuster. I knew how to do the job, but I had no proof that I could teach anyone else how to do the job. I had no proof that I could show somebody how to make money in my industry. So what ends up coming out is a bunch of noise to people. And it just frustrates us as the business owners and as creators. And so maybe right now you're in a credibility crisis. If you feel like you're in the credibility crisis, put it in the chat. Does anybody feel like they're in the credibility crisis right now? Put it in the chat. Don't be ashamed of that. Like, we all face it. Okay. So problem number 2, if we're able to solve the credibility crisis, and sometimes in our attempt to solve the credibility crisis, we fall into what's called the tornado trap. And so the tornado trap is this. You want to make money, right? That's why we're all in business, but we're not making any money. Everyone's not buying. Everyone's really ignoring us for the most part. So what do? We create a sales funnel. Anybody here create a sales funnel? Came up with a product, put a sales page up, do it out there, right? I equate tornadoes to funnels. They are universal to me. They're the same thing. The great thing about a funnel is it spins up really fast, just like a tornado. A tornado spins up really fast, but guess what? It dies really fast. And funnels, a lot of times, will die super fast. So when I first started my business, I wanted to make money. I was doing it by the book. When I say by the book, I mean let me grab it here, by Russell Brunson's playbook. I love Russell Brunson. He's a marketing genius. He's all about sales funnels. And I did everything that he said by the book. But the problem is when we start thinking that the solution is always a funnel, is that we start doing things like changing the color of our buttons. Nobody bought. Well, maybe it's because my button's red and not blue, or it's green and not red. There's not enough urgency. My video is not good. And so we end up getting more frustrated than we already were in the credibility crisis. And there's this thing about tornadoes when I start thinking about it. Tornadoes themselves are not a weather system. They are a part of a weather system. So if you think about a tornado, it comes across the U.S. For those of us in the U.S., we have these lines of thunderstorms, sometimes from like Canada down to Mexico. The whole day is just nothing but these big thunderstorms rolling through. And sometimes they throw out these tornadoes. It has borrowed energy. And so this is really, really important that you realize that a tornado, a sales funnel, is borrowing energy from something else. Russell Brunson's all about funnel hacking, where you kind of model what other people are doing and position yourself to kind of make yourself the better option and position yourself at the right place to borrow the demand for another product or service and hopefully get them to buy yours instead. And so, but what ends up happening if that's our only focus is we become a storm chaser. We start throwing sales funnel, product after product after product. Fernando and I have both tried this and done this many times in our career, and it's exhausting. Okay. I have a storm chasing friend. His name's Max Olson. You can look him up on YouTube. He's amazing. He films for like Weather Channel and the news and all that stuff. And he literally goes and chases storms. He's also an insurance adjuster. That's how I know him. And so he goes, chases tornadoes, hurricanes, and films them. Amazing footage. And, he absolutely is so stoked when he gets a daytime tornado on the ground for a long time. Why is that so cool? Because it's rare, it's unpredictable, it's hard to find. And so they're like trying to guess where they think the next big outbreak's going to come and be in position to catch it for those few minutes it's actually there. That's often what sales funnels are for us, is they're just this really quick blip on a radar and then it's gone. And then we're off chasing the next one. So let's look at this tornado versus hurricane mindset that we're going to keep talking about here. Tornadoes, as we talked about, are short-lived. Yeah, it's got a lot of high pressure, but it's a really small impact area. You can only get the traffic, that you kind of funnel into that tornado funnel, right? Like if you don't buy ads to get it there, it's not happening. And a tornado has usually really small impact area. So whereas a really wide tornado might be a mile long and it might be on the ground for 5 to 10 minutes, that's relatively small when you compare it to the impact a hurricane has, which is a lot slower forming, but it's huge. I remember Hurricane Dorian, and I'm obsessed with weather because I live on a sailboat in Florida, and I'm a catastrophic insurance adjuster. So that's how we get our work from a lot of times. And there was this huge hurricane. Hurricane Dorian was about to hit Florida, and it stalled over the Bahamas for like a whole day. It was like 100 miles or less from the U.S., and it never made landfall in the U.S., but it absolutely devastated the Bahamas. But that hurricane was as big as Florida, people. Like, it was massive impact area. Okay, so funnels tend to be really, in tornadoes, really small impact area, but hurricanes have these big impact zone, which is what most of us want to do. We want to have a big impact in our industries and in our business. And in my first year, in business, I just felt like I was a tornado. I was just throwing up idea after idea after idea, funnel after funnel. I probably sold 10 products that year. Well, didn't really sell many of them, but I tried to sell at least 10 different products and services and things that first year. And I was so burnt out by the end. And, I was doing the funnels, I was doing launches of products. I was trying every hack I could find and read, every webinar I could watch. I'd go try that thing next. And I was really busy, and everything that I applied was very short lived. Nothing really seemed to take. And looking back, I wish I had this clarity years ago. Looking back, when people ask me, like, well, how did you do it? What made it work? I noticed that funnels, I'm really thinking about this when I was writing my book that comes out in January, is that funnels, these tornado-like things, they really cash in on belief that already exists. If someone's looking for a mattress because they think a mattress will make them sleep better, and maybe they're going after the purple mattress, and they type in purple mattress, and you place an ad for a different kind of mattress, but at the top of Google, like, no, you should buy mine. It's better than the purple mattress. And they buy, you've cashed in on the belief of purple mattress, right? That funnel, you funneled them into you. When someone believes in you and you push them into a sales funnel and they spend money with you, you are cashing in on belief that already exists. But how do we create that belief? And I believe we create that belief with what I call a flywheel. So funnels cash in on belief, but flywheels are what actually create the belief in the first place. And for many of us, we don't have belief in ourselves. Our customers don't believe in our products or services yet. And maybe we're creating new categories that we talked about earlier today. And so we're trying to create belief in something that does not even exist yet. And we have to explain, well, funnels cannot do that. You have to have a flywheel to create belief. All right, so we're gonna go with an application check. We got another giveaway here. Fernando, I need you to watch both chats if you could.
I'm monitoring
the application. Okay, so we're going to complete the statement in the chat. This is for a free 1-hour coaching session with me. I charge $500 an hour for these coaching sessions. And right now I'm not even. Huh? No, you cannot participate. You get them for free on the phone all the time. So you can tell them if it's valuable or not when I'm not watching. So you're going to complete the statement in the chat first for a free 1-hour coaching session with me. You can't even find this to be able to buy this online. This is just something I'm doing. Fernando wanted me to give it away, but I'm not accepting new clients. But I will if you get this answer right. Okay. You guys ready? You got your fingers ready? I'm checking if they're chatting. Always. Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. Funnels equal what? Weather phenomenon, and flywheels equal what? Put it in the chat. Funnels equal what? Flywheels equal what? First one to get that gets a free coaching session. We can build your flywheel out. We can do your book outline.
Christina L. For funnels equal tornadoes, flywheels equals hurricane.
Perfect. All right. If you come away with nothing else, that's what I want you to come away with today. Funnels equal tornadoes, flywheels equal hurricanes. And that will change the way you approach your business. And I know it has me. Perfect. All right. Great. So email me, winner. Fernando, make sure they get my email, and we'll get you hooked up with that.
Christina L was the one that's saying on the other chat. I'm sorry, there's there's two different chats. Corey Keller did it right. Deanna did it right. And in the other chat, Emily Schmitz did it right, and Christina L was the first one that did it right.
So first one, and if we got two that we're not sure which was first in each chat, then do one from each chat. We'll give them both one. I don't want to exclude anybody if they had a first one in each chat.
Corey was the first one in this chat.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll give it both to them. All right. So there is this law that I came across. I created, actually, I called it the flywheel law. But hurricanes last 1,000 times longer than tornadoes. A tornado spins up, lasts maybe 10 minutes. That's a long tornado, actually, 10 minutes. But hurricanes on average last 10 days. And so a flywheel, then, if it's a hurricane, and we think about it that way, can last 1,000 times longer than a funnel. Its impact, its result is potentially 1,000 times longer. And so now, once we can escape the tornado trap, and I'm going to walk you through how to escape each one of these here in a minute. Once we get through that and we shift our mindset out of the funnel, sell, we usually face something called category confusion. And this is when, yeah, people are interested. Maybe even some people are buying, but by and large, people don't understand what you are, what you do, or they just don't remember you. And that category confusion comes from not having a strong point of view. It comes from not having designed a category of space in people's minds for you to sit in, that they're like, oh, that's Fernando, the strike marketing guy. Oh, that's Chris. He's the mini book guy, right? If you're especially a one-person solopreneur act, and someone can say, oh, you're the blank guy or blank gal, you're on track, right? But if that isn't there, you're not making it. Or if, you're a company and a SaaS product and they don't know, oh, you're the blank, the survey guys or gals, like that's what you're looking for. And so if you're not having a strong point of view about how to solve a problem, you don't have a clear category, you don't have the language. We, in the first session on the panel, they were talking about it's the one-liners from a movie that people remember about you. In this case, for me, it's like flywheels or hurricanes, right? I hope you remember flywheels or hurricanes, and that by the end of this talk, you want a flywheel. But that language, establishing language, is so important because it's how people remember you. And it comes from not having clarity. And so if you can have a strong point of view, have a category, have good language, and be clear on what you do, then suddenly it becomes a lot easier for people to remember you. And so what changed in my business around this category confusion was I built a flywheel. And I did not do this forward thinking, right? This is, it looks easy looking backwards. And that's why I'm doing it again with this business. Is I look back at what I had done and I said, okay, well, let me see if this works in my company, new company, different products, different industry and everything. But it's working the same for me. I built a flywheel. And so what I did is I wrote a mini book, and we'll talk a little bit more about that if you guys want in the Q&A. I wrote a mini book which established these things, the POV, the category, the language, the clarity, and allowed me to repeat my messaging consistently over and over and over again. It gave people proof by me saying, look, this is what you need to do, step 1 to 7. And then they go do it and they get proof, or they, one of my students goes and does it and writes a review for it, or I put quotes from other people I've helped in the book, or somebody writes a forward in the book, from a big company or whatever. It also provided language, things people could remember me by, things like the adjuster lottery, and just, those taglines that people got hooked by. And it also developed that category that I was after and trying to create. And so I did all that within one mini book, and it served though as a flywheel, because now my entire business started operating around this flywheel. And so a lot of people usually get confused on flywheel. My wife said, I've been talking about flywheels for years. And she's like, I never understood flywheel until like a few months ago when I started writing this book. It's called Mini Book Flywheel. It comes out in January. And it's this concept of like a flywheel spins on a car, and it takes the really erratic pounding of the motor, the surging of power, and it smooths it out over time to where it's restoring it and reserving it for other times to smooth out that process. And so in our business, instead of these violent tornadoes that spin up and we're like chasing sales, it's making it to where it's a consistent thing in your business, and you're not having to be creative. You're not having to exhaust yourself with a bunch of things. It just provides that consistency. But with that mini book at the kind of the center of the flywheel, everything just went around it. And the picture of how you can imagine this from a really practical standpoint of how one book can become everything in a business. I wrote this book. It had basically 7 steps in it, and then a few prelude chapters to set the stage. So let's just call it 10 chapters. But those 7 steps were like things like get an adjuster license. I mean, not genius stuff, right? Like get training on how to do the job. Here's the type of training you need. on and on and on, right? Things about resumes, whatever. But each step was there. But like step 5 was you got to craft a resume that'll get you hired, right? And so how do you do that? And I talk a little bit about that. But as a flywheel, what I did is I then wrote another book, or you could make a course, which I also did, around each step. So I wrote a book about resumes. I wrote social media posts about resumes. I wrote social media posts about licensing. That book was my guide to everything in business. It is literally the process I take my $5,000 coaching clients through, and I just do all those steps with or for them if I can. But that was my entire business. Like, it was, people were like, what do you do for me? I'm like, well, here it is. It's the book. You can either do it yourself or you can hire me to do it with you. That was it. Like, this is my business. Literally, you could just crack it open and look at it. And that is everything I did. But I just did it in different ways because it was all built on a flywheel, all circling around one central thing. Okay, so let's talk about this mysterious flywheel concept. What are the elements? You know, you want a hurricane. Maybe you're hearing this and you're like, you know what? I voted tornado, but I think I'm changing my vote to I want to be more like a hurricane. I want to last 1,000 times longer. I want to be more consistent. I want it to not be so hit and miss. But what are the elements of this hurricane and flywheel? First up,
I'm going to change the layout. I'm going to change the layout for a second just so that people can read the stuff here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So with a tornado, it has several things it needs. I'm sorry, with a hurricane, it has several things it needs to actually form in the Atlantic. One of the biggest things it needs is warm water. Well, in our business, we need that warm water as well. We need a market need. And what this is and where you can find out is the need here is the elements here that I need to create a flywheel is you can look at the ocean of questions, of frustrations and unmet desires your audience is already feeling. You know, and some people might think like, oh, I need to do deep statistical analysis, or I need to buy some data. Like, no, like in Florida, we know if it's going to be a dangerous hurricane season potentially by how hot the water is. I step off the back of my boat and it's 100 degrees in the water in the Keys. Yes, that has actually happened. It was over 100 degrees in the water in the Keys, and we're down there, put the feet in the water, and you're like, this is hotter than bath water. Oh no, if a hurricane comes, because the market needs there, that warm water's there. So you can just dance around, wade in to the internet and start spotting these questions, frustrations, and unmet desires. But once you spot a need, a problem for your category or product and service to solve, that's the first element of your flywheel you need. And so the next thing is you need a powerful point of view. Like, how do you solve this need that's there? It's a unique perspective that pulls attention, and ultimately that's what actually forms the center of the storm. It's kind of like the low pressure area in a hurricane. For those weather nerds out there like me, central of the hurricane is like if you put a bowling ball on a trampoline and it sags, right? And everything's kind of like you roll other stuff then and it's rolling down towards it. Well, that's what's going on with the hurricane and the weather is there's a central low pressure. Well, that's our point of view. It has to be a deep shift in how you think and how someone thinks. So like Fernando, he's doing the Strike Marketing Summit. He's counter kind of to content marketing by saying there's a new way to do marketing that's different. He has a powerful point of view that he's presenting across all of us speakers this week. I'm talking about books only, but you tie that into his huge system that he's talking about, and it's a totally different way to do something. It's a unique point of view. And so it has weight, it has gravity to it. And so that starts to form your flywheel or your hurricane. And so next thing is you need that consistent messaging. You know, if Fernando's talking about something different next week, we might forget about Strike Marketing. Let's just be real. Like we might not remember exactly what it is. But if he has consistent messaging and repetition of the language and ideas that he's bringing, it's going to start creating rotational energy, just like you start seeing the rotation of a new baby hurricane. You start seeing the clouds forming and spinning around it. The next thing that happens is a belief echo, is that once you start to put this all out into the world and you hear people resonating back with you about what you're talking about, that messaging coming back to you, if people are repeating your message, It's accelerating and feeding the hurricane. It's taking it from other storms, from other places, and feeding it. If you ever watch a hurricane in the wild, it is like pulling the entire planet's storms towards it and feeding off of that energy. And so finally, the last thing is you get that category clarity. And this is when you get to the eye of the hurricane. And if you've ever seen those beautiful videos of the drone footage where they go inside the hurricane and it's like violent, 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 and you go in and suddenly it's calm and it's clear. You feel that as a business owner when it hits. Took me a while to hit that, but it's a category clarity. It's a calm place where people instantly understand what you do, what you stand for, and why it matters. And that's like the eye of our hurricane. And that's when you're super powerful. The more defined your category, the more clarity you have around that, the more powerful your hurricane and flywheel are. Is this making sense to everybody? I know it's like a weird analogy and everything, but to me, this helped me finally start to understand the difference between one way to approach business, which was sales funnels only and throwing things out into the wild to try to make sales, and then actually looking at it as a process of something that I could build my own weather system out of. So we're going to talk a little bit about how you start to build this, because my guess is you guys want to get, I want to make sure my slides are right here. Yeah. How you actually build a flywheel yourself. So there are kind of three major steps to this, or three stages to it. Is first, you have to have an idea. You have to have an idea. You have to then build an identity, and then you have to actually start to make impact. And I'm going to lay these out. This is more the practical side, whereas the elements were kind of theoretical. Like, what is it? What are these elements? What are these things that make up a strong hurricane or a strong flywheel? Now we're going to get to like brass tacks, what you guys can do in your own business. And so the first thing, if you were in the first session, to get an idea nailed down, your business idea or your book idea, is you need to have a person, a problem, and a clear POV. So I help blank solve blank by blank. I help a person solve a problem by this point of view. And so in my IA Path example in my company was I help new independent insurance adjusters solve the experience requirements with virtual mentorships and certifications. Like that was what it started out as. And so once you have that idea, you can start to then go out and begin to, pursue and build. But nobody really freaking cares. Okay. But that's your idea of where you're headed. Once you do that, your next step is you build an identity. And so an identity is built by naming the category, framing the category with a framework, a series of things. Mine was the 7 steps to becoming an independent adjuster. It was a roadmap. And then you have to claim the category. And so I look at doing this. You name the category, you come up with a name, you come up with that idea, you give it a really tight name. You start developing the languaging. We were talking about the category design panels, and Kevin Maney and Dan Powell were talking about. You come up with your core framework that easily explains. Theirs was the formula, right? They had the formula, literally. And then you claim that category with a mini book. So now that you figured out that part, this is why it's a little bit slower. A hurricane's a slower build than a tornado. You can't just build the landing page. You're actually doing the thinking up front, and you're going, what is my category name? What is the process to develop that, get that result for somebody? And then let me write about that in a mini book, because it flushes out all that languaging. It flushes out the process, and it really reveals what it is that you believe in your stories. And so a mini book is nothing but a 10,000 word book, basically 5,000 to 15,000 words is how I classify a mini book. But that's how you form an identity. That's how you become the auto guy. That's what I was called for a while. Now I'm called the mini book guy because I wrote 5 books about mini books, right? Like that what forms your identity of you or your business. And when you write that mini book, what ends up happening, bringing it all the way back to our problems at the beginning, is you end up curing the credibility crisis, because suddenly an author has what? Authority. Author is the root word of authority. So when you are an author, you suddenly have authority in your field. That credibility crisis is gone. You have a book, people talk to you different. You have a book, you can get on podcasts. You have a book, people think and look at you differently. And you can do this in as little as 7 days. I did many times. All my best-selling books, not all 21, but the top sellers in each of my series were all written in less than a week. And so I know you can do it too. Even if it takes you 14 days, it's still really quick in comparison. Slower than a sales page, but still quick. You build a business around a mini book, creating a belief flywheel. Because remember, belief is what's lacking. Is no one believes your business, product, or you can solve their problem. And what ends up happening is if you have a belief flywheel where people are like, oh, yeah, that's the guy who tells you how to get work like this. Oh, yeah, Joe, you want to be an insurance adjuster? You go talk to that guy. That wasn't because of a sales funnel. That was because of a belief flywheel. That flywheel I had built around my book, around consistent messaging, around the echo coming back. And it allowed me to escape the tornado trap forever. I don't do random sales and like a flurry of activity like that anymore. It is a constant big storm that's always moving, always in motion, but it's not just me putting in motion. And then finally, you obtain that category clarity when you write a mini book, and you allow yourself to claim a category, to clearly define it with your mini book as your manifesto. Anytime someone's like, I'm interested, tell me more, you hand them the book. When I bring on a new person as a contractor in my company, my administrative assistant, my sister is like my right-hand person for the last 3 years. And she worked with me for 2+ years. I wrote the 4th edition of this book. I made her read it to make sure I wasn't crazy. She goes, man, I wish I had that book when I first came on, because that would have made it so much clearer. I'm like, you did have the book. She's like, well, you didn't make me read it. Well, this brings clarity not just to your customers, but to any employees or contractors you're using. It brings clarity to your AI. So you're able to feed that to your AI, and now it talks like you. It actually understands the concepts that you're talking about, and it's not just a generic GPT anymore. It is your bot that has your clarity then. And so a lot of different uses there for a mini book. Yeah.
Can you sell the book again?
Oh, this one?
Yeah. Oh, Independent Adjusters Playbook. Okay, perfect. Yep.
Yeah. So that's the one that my sister, she works right hand with me on that company. It brought clarity to my employees or my contractors who are working with me. It just brings clarity all around. So once you have that mini book and you can use it to solve all 3 of those problems that I faced, you then can start really diving down on making impact. And it starts with the core is your mini book. But out of your mini book spins what? The content. Now here's my social media posts. Here's other books that I'm writing, instead of a chapter, now I'm writing a whole book on that chapter, or I'm doing a video course on that one thing that I talked about that people keep asking me about. It allows me then to draw people into conversations because they're like, hey, I struggle with that. I'd like to talk to you about that. I want to become an independent adjuster. I want to write a mini book. I want to do this. Hey, I saw you at the Strike Marketing Summit, right? This content is all around my book that's coming out. So now if I have conversations with people based on content I present, guess what? It could lead to what? Customers, right? And so this is the flywheel in motion. There's core, it's the mini book, spins out content, which spins conversations, which leads to customers. And that's the system. It's not complicated. It's not always sexy, but it's effective. And for me, it's what allowed me to maintain this over 9 years now. I've been running the same business. And even though I'm very ADD in some ways, I believe, I want to do other things, I'm able to maintain consistency in that business by having that core, by having a flywheel that's operating. And so to kind of bring it back to what we've been talking about this whole time, to remind you, is tornadoes super valuable. Remember, they're sales funnels. Like, sales funnels are valuable. I don't want you to come away going, sales funnels are bad. No, funnels are valuable. A sales page is valuable. I make money with sales pages and upsells and downsells and things like that at times, but they cash in on belief. But most of us don't have any belief yet. So that's why we're not making any money with our sales page. But hurricanes or flywheels, they actually create the belief. And then you can use a tornado to cash in on that belief at the right time. Because guess what? Hurricanes, when they land and they come ashore, they actually throw out their own tornadoes. So a lot of times in a hurricane, the most devastated areas were tornadoes that spun up from that. So it's not one or the other. It's We must create the belief. We must create our own weather, and then we can use sales funnels and or tornadoes to then cash in on that belief. All right. My last giveaway. Get your fingers ready. Get ready in the chat.
I'm checking the other chat.
We got 2 up now. All right. So this is the last person got a coaching call. The person before that got a free year of Substack. This is for my top tier of Substack. You'll get a free year. So it's a founder's level, which means you get all my AI bots. Like you can literally hit a phone call button and talk to me, but it's my AI. It sounds just like me for the most part, but it will talk you through whatever you need help in your business, writing your books. And so that's included, and that's the only thing that's really bonus on top of the other Substack. So this is about a $600 value. So everybody ready? I don't even remember what I play here, Fernando. Let's see. Based on the strategy I outlined, what is the core, the I of the flywheel and hurricane? What is it? It's the core of that system.
Wow. Okay. I think this is a difficult one.
It is.
Wait a minute. Somebody put $20,000 and somebody put POV. And then somebody put any mini book.
Mini book. Let's go with that answer. I had 2 different answers that they could potentially based on the talk. Caesar's like belief. Belief is huge. You need belief. But yeah, the core to the system, the I is actually started with that mini book. So yeah, let's go with that. Whoever put mini book. Who is that?
Wait a minute. Actually, we should do 2 of those because there was a belief in. So there's Deanna S that said belief in this chat, and then in the other chat there was POV.
Not necessarily belief.
Annie Croker said. Annie Croker said many book. And
yeah, that's the answer I was going for. She got the answer I was going for.
So Annie Croker, here I'm going to type in the thing here. Annie, write to me at this email address.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay. Now, I don't want everybody to walk away empty-handed today. So Fernando was like, hey, if you can give away something, that's great. I figured I could give away 2 books. One is the mini book model. This is got over 100 reviews on Amazon. It's the first book I wrote. I wrote it in 3 days. So literally I sat down for 3 days, wrote about mini books, published it, came back a year later, and it was like gathering steam and reviews. And I was like, maybe I should start a business around this. And so mini book model, if you go to minibookpublishing.com/free, you will get that book immediately for free, a PDF version of it. But also you'll get my new unreleased book that's coming out in January. The moment I finalize it and I know it's locked, the text, I'm working with the editor on final text right now. It'll come out in January. So, January 5th or something is the latest you'll get it. But as long as you're on that mailing list that you got this free mini book from here, you'll get mini book Flywheel as well for free. So, and this is where I go into the flywheel concept much deeper. It's got a 1-pager inside the book that you can use to actually map out your business and create your own flywheel the same way that I'm talking about here, but it goes even deeper. Like this is just a little bit of what I talked about in that book. But you guys will get that minibookpublishing.com/free copy.
Okay.
All right.
Fantastic.
So any questions, Q&A, you got anything, Fernando?
3 days. Oh yeah. So hold on a second. This is not a question, but it is a question. 3 days. So you wrote the mini book model in 3 days?
Yeah, 3 days. Yep. So it is by far the most popular book I've written in the mini book series. It is the one that gets rated the best review wise. And I literally wrote it in 3 days. And I think this is huge for anybody who wants to write a mini book. You don't have to spend a lot of time writing if you already know the content you want to write about. And so it comes down to having a clear outline, which I walk you through in mini book writing, the clearest outline you'll ever see. but like give you 3 options of different types of outlines to use. You pick one, you stick to it, but you outline it all the way. And then when you sit down to write, you're just saying what you know. But I actually have a whole system behind that called mini book writing that goes into that. Mini book model grazes through high level about it. But yeah, I wanted to give people something that was really high level about mini books, how to do it quickly, how to get it done. And I knew I had to demonstrate that. So the first 2 books in that series were written in 3 days and 7 days. And so but those are the most popular by far. Like the ones I spend months on, people are like, yeah, it's good. It's just not as good as your other ones. And I'm like, what? I spent like 6 months on that book. But those I spent days. Like, or mini book model, I spent days. Mini book flywheel was a lot harder slog because it was more metaphorical, weather analogies, all that. A lot harder concept to tackle. But
and I also want to share something. Where is that? Okay, so here I'm going to share something on my screen, right? So if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's do it.
Here, this is what I'm going to share. Oh, I got to put it up on the stage. Okay, here we go. All right, so these are all your books. Isn't there like a bundle that people can buy as well?
You can buy all the mini books. Yeah, if you click on the mini book one.
Which one?
Yeah, you can shop. So mini book publishing, the one to the left there. You can.
Okay. So yeah, this is a bundle. There's a 7-book series that you all can buy as well. So if you just go type in Chris Stanley books in Amazon, and then you go and you click on the Chris Stanley. So I just clicked on. See what I did there? I clicked on Chris Stanley.
Yeah, the author. But as long as you click on the series you want.
Am I on the screen? Yeah, I'm on the screen. Okay. And then, yeah, you can get the series for an awesome how do I go to the actual thing?
So that's it. That's it. So because you already own a bunch of them, it's not showing you the price. But yeah, it's yeah. So that's the actual books there. And that is all a part of a system. So it is basically what I lived out at iPath. People kept asking me what I did. And so I started deconstructing it into these books. And so it is actually something called a mini book revenue machine, is like the overall system you're building. And a flywheel is a part of that. It's kind of the brand. How you build a brand that's remembered is by creating a flywheel that is constantly touching people. But each one of those books handles one aspect of that process of building a mini book revenue machine, building a business around mini books. It'll walk you through each step from the core frame of your vehicle, which is the mini book model, the core thesis of what your company's made up of, to how you write your mini book, to how you publish your mini book, to how you market your mini book and create products out of your mini book, and etc. It just keeps building on each other. So it's all a huge series that ties in together.
So Christina L has a couple of questions, and then also there's a question from Ann. So how do you recommend finding your unique POV when you're first starting out and trying to narrow down what your language phrasing?
Oh man, I love this. Good question. So really short answer, and then I'll give a little bit further answer. Short answer is your POV should be how you solved your problem. Okay. So if you're helping someone solve a problem that you solved, your POV is here's how to solve the problem, right? Really straightforward. For example, I am telling you how to build a business, not in some way I haven't done. My unique POV is I wrote a mini book and it helped me build my business. Here's what I did. So this is not just some fabricated thing that comes out of nowhere. When I was helping people become independent insurance adjusters, I was telling them what I did, and then I went and interviewed other people about what they also did, and I correlated it. I said, oh, here's the 7 steps we all took to become an independent adjuster. Here's my unique POV. And just learning how to say that quickly is kind of the category design piece. But that's the key thing there. That's how you find your unique POV, is you figure out how you solve the problem.
Perfect. There's another question. Ann Croker said, how do you test your framework before writing the book? And then she says I think he just answered this, but how do you test your framework before writing the book? We just answer her.
Do it for free. So Fernando and I talk a lot. He gets everything like firsthand. Like before I ever go publish stuff, Fernando's talking to me and I'm advising him and giving him ideas. And I'm like, this is what I think. And if it works for him, and then it works for other of my clients and things, I'm like, wow, that really worked. It worked for me back at IA Path, and now it's working for Fernando. This is repeatable.
I'm
And
his
so a
guinea pig.
framework, yeah. So a lot of times you just doing it for free for somebody else, testing your framework that way is key. And I mean, I have a whole book around this, but it's like you can a framework is all it is a frame of thinking that actually works, right? So it's an acronym, it's a step-by-step, my 7-step roadmap in the Independent Adjusters Playbook. It's just a frame of thinking that actually works. That's all a framework is. So if your frame works, then great, you have a framework you can write a book around, but you do have to know that it actually works. And so there's a process for that. Just map out how you solve the problem in steps. Use Chat GTP or something, GPT or something, to break it down into like, okay, these 7 steps are what I did. Now make it an acronym. What word can we use that's 7 letters long? Journey. Okay, well, how can we say these things in to make those the first letters of that? And literally that's how I make my frameworks. You just write down the steps and then use Chat GPT. Well, before GPT, it was, doing the hard work on paper, figuring out what words I could spell with the number of steps I had. But that's in I think that's in mini book writing. I talk about that, and in Simple Online Business Model. Those I talk about frameworks.
All right. So Cipele Alapay says she loves the free books, and she also she's very thankful. And she says, will this recording be available after the conference to reference again? Yes, it will. So actually, the same link that you're using right now to view this thing, that's where the recording is going to be. Okay. And Cesar Aguirre, our good friend, I love that for most of the questions you already have a book about it. Real example of your flywheel. That's exactly right.
Right. If you keep getting questions from people, so my first book I wrote about how to write hail damage on a vehicle. So boring. Oh my goodness. But it was what I knew. It was what I was good at. But the question I kept getting, everyone's like, that's great. That's great. But how do I get started in this industry? How do I actually get work? I heard that probably 300 times that first year. It took 300 times for me to go, oh, that's what they want. And I wrote that book, and that became the flywheel, right? So if you're hearing questions, write a book about it, get a framework for it, whatever. It doesn't have to be a book. I just lean into books because it really does create that flywheel for me.
All right. So one more question, and then we're going to start the other thing with Russ Henneberry, and it's in his thing. But Ann Croker says, do you make a lot of money directly on sales of the books, or do you generously give it away knowing it's bringing revenue in other ways through coaching, et cetera?
It all depends on your business model. Me personally, I make decent revenue off books. So like about $500 a month comes in off of these insurance books. And then I make about $1,000 if I'm having a good month, anywhere from $700 to $1,000 off of the mini book series. But by and large, I'm not really doing it for the book revenue. That pays for marketing if I want to dump it back into just marketing the books as that flywheel to get it to spend more to make coaching and things easier. I don't have a clear revenue model path for mini books other than I make a little money on the royalties and I have a Substack, and then I do a little bit of coaching occasionally when it makes sense. But for me, it's the books are just the way to get engaged with people at a really low cost, and it builds that belief up. And I'm still kind of in that belief building phase because I have another company I run. So I'm just building belief in mini books, in this concept. And so if I ever do want to make this my full-time thing, it's there. But for me, it's worked for me. And so I just can't not talk about it.